Sunday, March 10th, was marred with the very sad news coming in from Ethiopia of an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 crash shortly after takeoff from Ethiopia's Bole airport. As is now widely known, this is the second disaster involving the fairly new Boeing 737-8 MAX in less than 5 months. And this has raised safety concerns, and we're going to look into those technical aspects, including the flight path and behavior of the aircraft in its last moments. And that should be interesting. We'll do that towards the second part of this video. But first, let's deal with the human element. There are many different nationalities on the aircraft, but Kenya was the hardest hit because there were 32 Kenyans on that ill-fated aircraft. Our hearts go out to all those Kenyans who have lost loved ones, relatives in this disaster. May the good Lord hold their hands during this very difficult time. Now, as is usual with this kind of disasters, there are those who are lucky. They miss the flight for various reasons. Flying, of course, is the safest mode of transport ever invented by man. Therefore, it's virtually impossible to predict or sense that something is going to go wrong. In sharp contrast to road users, because in a country like Kenya, our roads are extremely dangerous. And it is very possible to sense danger. Notice how a vehicle is being driven and alight, or even notice a few strange things before you board a bus, like the bus driver being drunk and you refuse to board it. And indeed, we've had these cases. But with an aircraft, it's impossible. And this morning, there are two gentlemen who are still shaking in relief and shock who missed that flight. A Greek national, Antonis Mavropoulos, was heading to a UN conference which was scheduled to start this morning in Nairobi, did not board the aircraft. He was late. He probably overslept or was delayed, and he arrived moments after the gate was shut, and therefore he could not board the aircraft. He was livid, and he complained and shouted and made all kinds of noises at being inconvenienced. And finally, he ended up in the office of a very grim-faced official who looked at him funnily, and then finally told him, "You should be thanking your God instead of complaining and ranting." That is when he learned that the aircraft he was so desperate to get into had crashed, killing all those occupants inside. And then there was Ahmed Khalid. I believe you can see his photograph on your screens right now. He's the one on the right. He was coming to Nairobi from Dubai via Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And he was scheduled to take the early morning flight, but his flight in from Dubai was late. And therefore, instead of being put on the 8 a.m. flight as scheduled, he had to go on the 11th flight. 11 a.m. Now, fascinatingly, amongst the Kenyans who perished was the pilot. Now, this was not Kenya Airways, this was Ethiopian Airlines, but they had an Ethiopian-born Kenyan piloting the aircraft, a very experienced pilot, Captain Yared Mulugeta. Now, I'm not exactly sure what it means, Ethiopian-born Kenyan national. And my best guess is the man had some sort of dual citizenship, dual nationality. Because a Kenyan flying an Ethiopian Airlines aircraft is very rare. Now, at the time of me making this video, information was still streaming in. But so far, the most prominent Kenyan on that aircraft was a man called Jonathan Six, who was the chief executive officer of the famed Tamarind Group, owners of the Carnivore, very well-known Carnivore restaurant in Nairobi, Tamarind Restaurant in Mombasa, Tamarind Dao, etc., etc. Jonathan is, of course, the son of a man I consider one of the greatest local entrepreneurs, the late Chris Six, who died in 1999. Now, Chris founded the Tamarind Restaurant in 1972. He used his limited finances and bought a piece of Tudor Creek. And from very humble beginnings and with many obstacles, Chris grew this small restaurant into what is today the Tamarind Group, which is international. It is. They have branches out of Kenya, then South Africa. They were in Egypt until the Arab Spring. This is truly one of the most admired Kenyan-bred brands, and it was built from scratch by this Mzungu Kenyan. He was born in the country in the 1940s. A story is told that in the early days of the Tamarind, if a customer ordered an expensive whiskey, a double cognac or something like that, Chris would have to rush into his vehicle and drive over to Bahari Club, borrow the shot, the whiskey, serve it to the customer, and then when he was paid, rush back to Bahari Club and pay for it. Very interesting. That was Jonathan's father. Now, Jonathan was born in Mombasa, but his parents separated in 1974 when he was barely 6 months old. Jonathan's mother is, of course, from Sweden, and the couple, Chris and his Swedish wife, met in the Bahamas, where they were both working at a certain club. And therefore, Jonathan has mostly grown up abroad, and only came back to Kenya in his later years. And more importantly, got involved in the Tamarind Group business, the business his father founded, in his later years. I find it extremely sad that Jonathan was not able to live long enough to fully confirm the legacy of his late father, because his late father is not very well known, despite his great achievements in the country called Kenya. My very deep and sincere condolences to the family, and even the whole Tamarind family in Kenya and elsewhere. Now we shall move to the second part of this video, where we shall look up a little closer at what may have happened. And we'll do that immediately after the brief upcoming commercial break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 is the most popular, the fastest selling aircraft ever in the history of Boeing. It is a short and medium haul aircraft, with very good fuel efficiency, and probably that points to one of the reasons for its popularity. And although it's an upgrade, of the earlier 737, it has very little in common with that earlier popular and very safe aircraft. It only started carrying passengers in 2016. However, right from the word go, it has had issues. Admittedly, this is not the first time a new aircraft in the market has had issues. The 787 from Boeing also had issues with the battery, which was later resolved. And the issue with this aircraft was brought into sharp focus in October last year with the fatal accident of the Lion Air Flight 610, which crashed in Indonesia, killing all those aboard. Now on your screens right now, you'll be able to see the behavior of the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 in its last moments, which is chilling because this is exactly what happened in Indonesia with the 737 Max 8 there, which crashed about 12 minutes after takeoff. The Ethiopian case crashed approximately 6 minutes after takeoff. Now, in the Indonesian case, officials believe that the sensors on the aircraft, an aircraft has sensors which sense speed, etc., in an aircraft. They believe that the sensors were reporting faulty information, which in turn was causing the aircraft system, inbuilt system, to react by automatically pushing the nose of the aircraft downwards. Now, any automatic reaction introduced into the system of an aircraft is for safety purposes, to make that aircraft safer. And by system, I mean the inbuilt computer, that flies the aircraft. For instance, when you put the aircraft on autopilot. Now, I'm trying to keep this very simple. So the immediate question is, why would the system in an aircraft point the nose of the aircraft downwards? A layman would say that is the last place you want to point the nose of an aircraft, downwards. So let me explain. There's something called stall. Now, stall happens when an aircraft is traveling too slowly to be able to get enough lift on its wings, to keep it in the air. In most modern jets, you will get a stall warning if the aircraft speed is too low, wherever you are in the air. And the reaction, the way a pilot is supposed to correct that, is to increase speed. However, increasing speed happens gradually. So what pilots are trained to do is to dive, put the plane nose down, because when you put the plane nose down, automatically also the speed increases due to the weight and gravity on the plane. So you're up on the air, you get a stall warning, you point the nose down, as you increase the speed, and that corrects the stall warning, the stall danger in the aircraft. Now, if you're a designer of an aircraft and possibly you want to put an extra safety feature, you might consider the fact that maybe a pilot will not be able to react fast enough, in the case of a stall. So theoretically, what would you do? You would put something into the system whereby whenever there's a stall warning, the aircraft points nose down automatically. So theoretically, all the pilot has to do is to increase speed. And by the way, when the nose is pointed downwards, in case for some reason the pilot was slow in reacting, they'll immediately start increasing the speed. So the aircraft becomes safer, with this added safety feature. Now, in the case of the Boeing 737-80, earlier tests and issues which arose from these tests are what caused engineers at Boeing to put in this extra feature, which seems to have satisfied all the stringent measures that any aircraft needs to go through before it's approved, finally, for flying, for commercial flying. Now, what I've just explained would very neatly explain the behavior of the Ethiopian Airlines aircraft shortly before it crashed. So the aircraft reacts nose down, the pilots increase speed, it gains altitude again, and then again the nose down happens, and the pilots of course automatically react and increase the speed, and so on and so forth. That would explain what you see on the screens right now, the behavior of that aircraft. According to officials in Indonesia, all due to a faulty sensor that tells you the speed is too low and therefore there's the danger of a stall, while this is not actually the fact. It's not true. Now, this has been an issue since the crash in Indonesia last October. However, now with the latest Ethiopian Airlines incident, it has become much more serious an issue. And the immediate result is that China has grounded all the 737 MAX 8 aircraft in the country. Cayman Airways have done the same. They have grounded their two aircrafts, their two 737 MAX 8s. The latest is that even Ethiopian Airlines have grounded all their 737 MAX 8s. The official word is that they have done this as a safety precaution, as they get more information as to the causes of the latest crash. Now, it is super interesting to note that Ethiopian Airlines is one of the safest airlines in the world, not only in Africa. They take safety very, very seriously, much more seriously than many other airlines. Ethiopian Airlines is one of the, Ethiopian Airlines is also one of the most professional organizations on the continent. It is super fascinating that in the 80s, when there was a military coup in Ethiopia, the airline swiftly moved its head office to Nairobi, from Addis Ababa to Nairobi, and continued operating as if nothing was happening in Ethiopia. Yeah, many people admired that, especially because the airline is 100% owned by the government of Ethiopia. Well, let's just wait and see. Yeah, as more information comes out, let's see how this story develops. And of course, I'll be keeping you very much up to speed with the latest on this channel. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.